This time around on STV, it's all about keeping your cool. So I'm going to run through a number of the reasons that can lead to your sled overheating, but I'm also going to run through a number of the cures to prevent it. Then I'm headed just up the road to a new power sports store that's located dangerously close to the shop here. And I'm going to finish things up with some Yamaha tips on how to tow your sled home if it all goes bad out on a trail ride. So it's all going to start right now as soon as Brent rolls the opening. Brent, wherever you are, roll the opening.
STV is brought to you by Yamaha, revs your heart. Polaris, think outside. Ford F-Series, Canada's best-selling line of pickup trucks for 56 years. Tough, smart, capable.
Internal combustion engines all suffer from the same problem, heat management. The air-fuel ratio that's burned is super powerful, but it's also super hot, and if the engine doesn't have a way to deal with this excess heat, well, it's sure not going to last very long. For sleds, we have air-cooled and liquid-cooled engines. Air-cooled or fan engines, often called blow dryers, use air passing over fins on the cylinders and heads to remove the heat. Now the fins are there to increase the surface area of the engine to make this process more efficient, and it works great. Liquid-cooled engines use, well, liquid to remove heat from the engine by circulating it through internal passages in the heads and cylinders with a pump, then out to some external device to cool the liquid before it gets returned to the engine to pull out more heat. Vehicles use this same method of circulating water through the engine to help keep things cool. It's pretty simple. The heat of the motor is picked up by the water, which is brought to the top of the rad. Then it's circulated inside the rad through all the fins. The air passing through the rad is what's cooling everything down. Then the cooler water exits the bottom to enter the engine again to get heated up back to the rad in one big long continuous circle. Now this system works extremely well and can generally stay ahead of the heat of the engine by just moving through the air, say at cruising speeds going down the road. But there's a secondary system at play here for those times when the rad isn't moving fast enough through the air, say when the vehicle's stopped and idling or you're just in heavy traffic. There's a mechanical fan on the back to physically pull air through the rad to make sure it can stay ahead of the heat of the engine. In a snowmobile, there's a very different way of removing heat. Sleds use a heat exchanger that relies on snow and ice bits whipped up by the track to land on these heat exchangers that are found in the tunnel, in the bulkhead, in the center of the chassis, or even under the running boards. Now these things are finned to increase their surface area and efficiency, but unlike a rad that can cool by air, these heat exchangers rely on the physical contact of the snow and ice to remove the heat of the engine. In normal operating conditions, this system works very well, but has one drawback. Unlike a rad in a car that uses a fan to pull extra air through it when it's needed, there is no extra device on a snowmobile to compensate when there isn't enough snow or ice dust coming in contact with the exchangers. Usually this isn't a problem, but there's a few times when it is, like say if you're traveling across a frozen lake with absolutely no snow on it and you're on glare ice, or maybe you're on really hard packed trails that have thawed and then frozen again overnight. Maybe you got to grind down the gravel shoulder of a road. There's definitely no cooling there. Most sleds have a dummy light or maybe a gauge on the dash to monitor heat and tell you what's going on if you're in less than great cooling conditions. But when that light does come on, you better be looking for snow, and quickly, because it's a quick trip from the light coming on to engine damage being done due to overheating. Head gaskets can blow, parts can warp, you can get detonation in the combustion chamber, and if the engine gets hot enough, you can actually seize this thing solid. All very expensive problems to deal with. And not only is snow and ice dust needed to cool the engine, this stuff is also needed to cool and lube the track system. Without enough getting in here, the friction of the track clips running along the plastic high facts can get so hot, it can start to melt. Now I'm sure you've all smelt that plastic smell coming from under your sled. That's the Hyfax is getting warm. But at this point your track clips are also getting hot enough that potentially they can be doing damage to the track, like melting the rubber or heat damaging the fiberglass reinforcing rods, making them prone to failure down the trail somewhere. Not good. So if you do smell that Hyfax plastic smell, get to snow and get there quickly, and do it before you stop as well, because at this point your track clips are already hot enough that if you do stop, they're gonna melt themselves into the Hyfax, basically welding everything together. If you get into this situation, there's only one way to solve it. Throw your sled up on the side and try to rip that track off the Hyfax. It's not easy to do, and if you're successful though, it will sound like a zipper coming apart. Fun times. Now, you might be wondering if there's a solution to this problem, and there is, and it's an ice scratcher like this one. Wow, that was a huge buildup to this simple fix, but the humble ice scratcher can save you a ton of money when it comes to keeping your sled cool. But there is one problem with this style of design, and they can break. Simply, I've seen them break off because they're vibrating so hard on a high-speed trail, and these things are one direction, forward only. If you forget to clip them back up into your suspension before you reverse your sled, you're definitely going to do damage to the ice scratcher, or you're going to break them off completely. And then I've seen the tang pierce the track, doing damage to it as well. Not good. There is a better mousetrap though, and we found this one from ACS. This design uses stainless steel wire rope to be the spring, and it can also flex enough to deal with going backwards. The other thing I like about this scratcher is they're built by a thriving small business located not far from the STV World Headquarters, and they were designed by someone you might not expect to design a solution for a snowmobiling problem. Now, because they're located so close to us, we decided to pick these scratchers up in person and check out their facility.
When someone comes at ACS and asks who built the ice scratcher, I tell them I did it. Masuma Murad, you're looking at it right here. Trying to find a way that it doesn't rust, and also, so we thought of a stainless steel, but stainless steel, you can't really weld it with aluminum. So designs and trials, then I came up with the wire rope of the stainless steel 316. So we thought to put it together, and that's how we built it.
Besides the ice scratcher, besides the clutch pullers, we do have helixes, spring pullers, washers. We have many pieces and parts, accessories for the sleds. The runners, we have runners for all the OEMs, and we have in particular for the skis that are sold separately, and we have all the sorts of models. So we are from the beginner side of it. We use carbides where you can be more careful if you're just starting, or for the aggressive driver we have other types of carbides that we use. So yeah, it's basically for every type of rider and for all the OEMs, any kind of sled we supply.
Now I've gone ahead and installed a set on my old Indy here. Now these things come in a whole bunch of different colors, and I think the red looks good on the machine. Now these are super easy to install, and the instructions are easy to follow as well. These ACS ice scratchers can also be used to replace the spring ones that are found on a lot of sleds right from the factory now. As a whole, more sleds are coming with scratchers these days. You used to pretty much only see scratchers on deep lug sleds to help get snow into the Hyfax that was being held up by the tall track. But now the manufacturers have figured out that big heat exchangers with a lot of extra water are very heavy, and on the whole, the newer systems are designed to be much smaller and lighter, which means there's not a lot of extra cooling capacity for when conditions aren't necessarily ideal. So it's never been more important to make sure that your heat exchangers are getting enough snow and ice dust on them to keep your sled cool. Coming up after the break, I've got another cool project to do to the old 650.
This segment is brought to you by CKX.
So I hate to admit this because it makes me feel a bit old, but I've owned this Indy 650 for 30 years now, and I do plan on owning it for another 30 if I can. Now, I don't ride it much, but I do love the sled, although with the popularity of greasy old triples sort of being the next big thing in relatively inexpensive vintagey old sleds to ride, I do plan on spending more time riding it. I've already gone and installed a set of ice scratchers to improve the cooling, but there's one other cooling project I want to do to the sled to get it ready to ride, and that's change the coolant in the cooling system. I know for a fact the antifreeze in this sled is factory fresh from 32 years ago, and there's also a debate about how long the coolant lasts, even the lifetime stuff, but I'm thinking after 32 years, it could probably be changed out. Antifreeze technology has also improved a little in 32 years, and I've chosen to go with a product that's formulated specifically for snowmobiles. I know that because there's a picture of a snowmobile on the bottle. To replace the old coolant in the 650, or any snowmobile for that matter, you first have to drain the old stuff out, which isn't always easy on a snowmobile. You may have to drain the system from a couple of places, and be ready for a spill because coolant tends to get everywhere. Also, this old coolant is nasty stuff and needs to be disposed of properly. Don't mix it with any other oils, so keep it in a separate jug to get rid of. Also, this stuff is highly toxic to pets, so make sure nothing can get into it when you're not looking. Next, because I care, I want to flush out all that old coolant, plus I happen to have some cooling system cleaner in the pit box, so I'm going to use a little bit of that, and distilled water to fill this system back up full again. Then I'm going to run the engine in order to circulate the flush. Just remember, if you're going to do this, you have to get the engine up to operating temperature to open up the thermostat in order to circulate the flush through the entire system. This is a rinse and repeat process, so I'm going to flush the sled one more time using straight up distilled water. Now I'm using distilled water to keep as many minerals out of the system as possible to prevent issues down the road like corrosion. Also, because during each flush you're getting the sled back up to operating temperature, let it cool off before you remove the cap. Otherwise, you could end up seeing Old Faithful right in front of your eyes and potentially getting severely burned by the hot water. With the flushes done, I'm going to fill the system for the last time with coolant from engine ice. This product comes ready to use right out of the bottle. It's not a typical antifreeze concentrate that would have to be mixed with additional water. I like this pre-mixed stuff because there's less of a chance of me messing up the ratio, which could compromise its freezing point. That, in this case, is rated at minus 45 degrees Fahrenheit. The Engine Ice proprietary formula also has superior heat transferability, improving the efficiency of your cooling system, which means more consistent horsepower. The Engine Ice formula also has the best corrosion protection to give your cooling system and its components a long life. It's also non-toxic, phosphate-free, and biodegradable, which means it's more environmentally safe than traditional glycol coolants. Knowing what's going in the old sled is as good as it can be makes me rest a little easier knowing that it's going to be protected properly for when it's running, but that it's also going to be protected from rusting and corrosion for those times that it's not running, say in the off-season. Now in the past, that off-season has lasted years and years for the 650. Going in the future though, this thing isn't going to be sitting around much at all. Coming up after the break, I'm headed to the new Royal Distributing store that's opening up here in Ottawa, and the best part is, it's just a few minutes away from the shop.
This segment is brought to you by Ford.
Royal Distributing is one of the biggest retailers of power sports stuff in Canada. They've got a huge online presence, but they've also got 5 retail stores spread across Ontario. The newest one is opening today here in Kanata, a suburb of our nation's capital, and I'm heading there right now to check it out. Being from this area, this new store is a great addition for the power sports enthusiasts around here. Plus, it's just a few minutes off the 417, which is Ottawa's main highway through the city, so it's a great location for people traveling through the area. Plus, this new store is only about 10 minutes from the shop. I literally drive by it every day. I have a feeling this place, though, is going to be hard on my wallet. So Jordan, I want to take this opportunity to kind of welcome you to the east end of Ottawa. I don't know if you knew it or not, but I grew up around here, literally like a few kilometers over there. And if you dug down underneath this store deep enough, you would find my snowmobile tracks. Like I used to ride through these fields. So it's great to see you here. I've felt the Ottawa area has needed a store like Royal Distributing for a long time now. You guys are just getting things going with this store, so talk to me about that. What kind of a reception have you seen so far?
Tremendous. So far, all the customers that we've been talking to have been very excited for us to come here.
Yeah.
You know, people have been saying it's been long overdue to have a power sports store of this size come into the area. Super excited that we're here, and yeah, we're just very happy to be in this area.
Yeah, and I mean, for location-wise, you guys are here basically on Hazeldean Road off Terry Fox, a couple of kilometers away from the 417, which is the main road through Ottawa, and you know, main access into the Ottawa Valley, and that's where all of these snowmobiles get used, like right there. So
yeah, something like 2,500 kilometers of snowmobile trails in this area.
Yeah.
Great for quadding, great for everything else we're doing, but you're right, like between this area going into Quebec, tremendous for sledding.
yeah. Why are you guys building stores? Because this is store number 5 in Ontario now for you guys. So tell me about where all your other stores are located, but also why is Royal Distributing choosing to build bricks and mortar stores in this online shopping era?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, definitely everybody knows, like you said, online shopping is big, and we do have a e-commerce channel, and you know, there is a focus on that. But with us, we just believe with these type of products that we're selling, you know, and just what we're selling in general, which is fun. We're selling stuff that people want to touch, they want to feel, they want to come in, they want to talk to, you know, like-minded people that are doing the same things they're doing. It's just, it's a fun atmosphere for us to be doing brick and mortar. So we have a store in Guelph, we have one in Sudbury, Whitby, Innisfil. Now Ottawa is our 5th, and I think it complements our online channel very well. There's lots of synergies for buy online, pick up in store, look at products online, and be able to come into the store, touch it, pick it up, and just being able to give that personalized touch to our staff, to any of the shoppers that come in, and just allow them to have a great time while they're looking for their next products. I would say honestly, it's probably been beyond my expectations. I expected a little bit of a slower response, I would say, and just being a new market, we didn't really know what to expect, but we've, again, just feel very fortunate with the response we've been getting from customers, and it just makes us, you know, super happy to see them happy, of course.
It's going to cost my wallet a lot of money because I have to drive by this store every day, and it's going to be so easy to just pop in and buy, you know, whatever I happen to be needing at that point without even having to think about it twice. It's great to have you here.
Well, I appreciate that again, Jeff, and we'll make sure our best prices take it easy on your wallet so the damage isn't too bad, hopefully. But yeah, thank you for the welcome. I appreciate it.
Staff has been wonderful. They helped us with all the helmets for all the kids, so they're all set for our snowmobiling season, so we're good to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What color is your helmet?
Green.
Green. What color is your helmet?
Yellow.
Yellow. And your color?
Pink.
Pink. And you're pink too. I can tell.
Well, you know what? I showed up here, I'm thinking this is a good time to get all your spark plugs if you drive an old greasy triple.
Yes,
Yes,
and my
is.
greasy triple's here, and it blew a spark plug when I unloaded it off the trailer.
Is that your greasy triple
That's,
back there?
that's the Scuzzy over there that
That's
we use on the show.
beautiful. Okay.
It's not beautiful. No, no.
To him it is.
You're going to want
To
to
him
load
it
up on
is.
plugs and oil, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This segment is brought to you by Yamaha.
For this Yamaha tip, it's all about for those times when things get too hot and you might have to get your broken down sled out of the trail, back to home, and you need to tow it. Now there's a bunch of parts of this tip, so listen up. The first part of this tip is that you should always be carrying a tow rope with you because you never know when a mechanical failure is going to happen. The next part of this tip is when you are towing, typically most people are going to tow from bumper to bumper, but if you do this, remember, always keep this tow rope as tight as you can. So the guy doing the towing needs to be the gas, the person getting towed needs to be the brake. That way you always keep the tow rope in tension. If you get slack in that tow rope and the sled doing the towing doesn't realize it and takes off, well, that's going to end up with somebody's broken bumper, sort of like making a wish on a wishbone to see which bumper is going to go. Another thing to never do if you're towing is tow from ski tip to ski tip like this up to the towing sled. This is going to end badly with your sled having a severe case of being pigeon-toed. But here's another way of doing it, a way that I actually prefer. It's called flat towing. Basically what you're doing is bringing the two bumpers together of the two sleds, the sled doing the towing and the sled getting towed, with some sort of a cushion between. In this case, I'm using an old towel, but a spare pair of gloves works in a pinch. I'm also using a ratchet strap to be able to bind the two bumpers together as tightly as possible so that they don't move side to side. A regular tow rope or anything to do this is going to work. Now, the beauty of this system is that it's super simple and you don't even need a second rider to ride the sled that's getting towed, because we all know that's a miserable experience. Now, the last thing to remember, regardless of the different type of towing you're doing, the sled getting towed, you have to take the dry belt off. Otherwise, you're going to do damage to your primary clutch. Hey, thanks for hanging with me this week on STV. It was a fun show for me, working on the old 650 again, getting it ready for another winter on the snow. Hopefully, with Royal Distributing around the corner, I'll be able to keep this thing moving under its own steam going forward. Anyways, for all you greasy triple guys out there, keep your pipes hot.
Closed captioning is brought to you by iGrip Studs. STV has been brought to you by CKX, Wear Your Passion. Schaefer's, specialized lubricants since 1839. Best Western Hotels and Resorts, ready to get away?